I'm still waiting for the left, the liberals, to get outraged about Roseanne getting fired for her free speech. And then I'm also waiting. I've been waiting a long time for the left and the Democrats, especially the Democrats on Capitol Hill, with the Twitter files that released that the Biden-Harris administration was actually using the government to pressure Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and especially Twitter to actually censor actual Americans through government pressure. But we have to move. We all have to, we can have divergent views without demonizing each other. And the problem with what Jimmy Kimmel does and what I just saw is it's just a continuation of the demonization of half of America. And well, why was that getting us anywhere?
Something just blew up in late-night TV, and Jimmy Kimmel didn't see it coming. Rob Schneider just shredded him live for claiming free speech is under attack. Kimmel's been bitter ever since his suspension last year. You'd think that would teach him a lesson. But nope. Now he's accusing the Trump administration of canceling speech. And Schneider? He's not buying it. This isn't a debate. It's a takedown, so buckle up.
Can you remember a political joke that went viral? What was something really funny of his? There was no attempt in humor at all in what he said. And as a matter of fact, it was a lie. Now, as you pointed to, Will, since the 1960s, you have to get a license to broadcast. This isn't Netflix. This isn't cable. This is broadcast TV. And when you have broadcast TV, you have to, the airwaves are owned by the public. And to get that license, you have to be in the interest, like you said, of the public. And so that's why when there's a news van parked in the white zone, they don't get a ticket because they are there to present news to inform the public in the public interest. So what happens is 25% originally was supposed to be the news to inform it, just to get that license. So when you absolutely lie to the public, then you are no longer in the public interest, like Jimmy Kimmel did the other night.
Schneider doesn't hold back. He says Kimmel isn't the funny late-night host we remember. He's a political commentator now, full-time. And that, Schneider argues, is why the audience is slipping away. People watch late night to laugh, not to get lectured. But it's more than ratings. Once you dive into politics, Schneider says, you have a responsibility. Facts, accuracy, integrity. Miss that, and your commentary becomes noise. Partisan noise. And viewers can smell it immediately.
So with the FCC chairman, he didn't say that he was going to pull the license. He was going to give them a warning and ask for an apology, what I understood on the Benny Johnson show. And so that's not the government doing it. And when 246 different stations around the country say we're no longer airing this, it's because they heard from their consumers. They heard from their customers. And they said, that's it. We're not doing it. And so Nexstar, who was a great guy over there, Sean Compton, said, that's it. He's the CEO and said, when we have complaints like this and none of the channels, 246, because I'm sorry, it's not just LA and New York. There are people in between who have a real sense of decency and who realize that what you had here was you had someone who wanted to have conversations and debate. And for somebody who was gunned down for that. So while I don't want to ever celebrate somebody losing their TV show.
And it's not just critics raising eyebrows. Schneider points out that private companies, partners, and sponsors are growing uneasy. A comedy show turned political platform? That scares brands. They don't want backlash dragging them down. Some are already reconsidering involvement. And here's the kicker. Kimmel was restored, but instead of calming down, he doubled down. Listen to this.
If you were wondering how bad these Epstein files are for Trump, turns out they're invade Venezuela bad. This is literally the plot of the movie Wag the Dog. The president gets caught in a scandal, so he attacks a smaller country to distract us, and here we are, distracted. On Saturday, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were captured by Delta Force at their home in Caracas and brought to New York. Trump watched the operation unfold in real time from the bunker in his basement at Mar-a-Lago. You can see there he is with Hegseth and Marco Rubio. This mission was called Operation Absolute Resolve, which is a title that was definitely generated by ChatGPT.
Kimmel tried to frame it as a political distraction. Wag the dog style. A president creating drama abroad to cover a scandal at home. But here's the problem. That's speculation. Not fact. Political commentary dressed up as comedy. Remember Trump-Russia headlines? Early reporting seemed settled. Then reality was way more complicated. That's why viewers are now demanding proof before buying sweeping claims. And Kimmel? He just keeps guessing.
Are you chilled? Are you in fear for the future of comedy and free speech?
Well, Will, first of all, I woke up this morning to the incredible shock that apparently TV shows are not guaranteed in our Constitution. I mean, wow. So that was tough to swallow. First. Second, I'm still waiting for the left, the liberals, to get outraged about Roseanne getting fired for her free speech. And then I'm also waiting. I've been waiting a long time for the left and the Democrats, especially the Democrats on Capitol Hill, with the Twitter files that released that the Biden-Harris administration was actually using the government to pressure Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and especially Twitter to actually censor actual Americans through government pressure.
Schneider calls out the selective outrage on the left. Critics are suddenly yelling, free speech. But were they as loud when Roseanne's show got canceled? That inconsistency isn't principled. It's political. And Schneider says, if fairness matters, it has to apply to everyone, not just the people you like.
Response to that is, it's a really good warning to comedians and other hosts and other people who do shows that if you go too far down the, conspiracy rabbit hole, or if you just get too politicized and then all of a sudden you're not, you're not in the funny business anymore. You're just in the, it's politics, and it's, it's really a propaganda through comedic imposition. They're imposing their views. And it wasn't funny, and it wasn't particularly interesting. And it's just factually incoherent, because believe me, if there was anything in those files about Trump, the Democrats had it for years.
Schneider isn't done. Critics argue Kimmel is no longer just joking, he's shaping narratives. Take Venezuela and Epstein, for example. Sure, it makes for a sharp late-night joke. But it's speculation, not proof. Other motivations? Drug trafficking, international supply chains, real policy concerns. Kimmel's claim doesn't hold up as fact. It's commentary, nothing more.
Look, obviously, all that stuff should come out, but the presumption that there's stuff there, how much more of this is it's people see that Russia was the only two people not involved in the Russia-Trump collusion was Russia and Trump. Everybody else seemed to be colluding. So I think the American people see through that. It's just like when you watch the news, depending if you're watching CNN, you have to go, okay, if politics is war by other means, this is war. So it's just a political warfare. So what are they not telling you? And so in this thing, it's just, it's treating your audience like they're stupid or like they're just in your own political echo chamber.
And here's the bigger issue. Late-night hosts sometimes act like viewers can't think for themselves. Jokes become lectures. Speculation becomes truth. Take the Epstein files. Years of teasing explosive revelations, and nothing concrete emerges. Oh, critics, this feels less like comedy, and more like manipulation.
He listens, I think he's affected by the head writer, who's his wife, who's a liberal that's...
The head writer is his wife?
Yeah, that's way out there.
Jimmy Kimmel's wife.
Jimmy Kimmel.
No, I know, but the head writer for what? For the show?
Jimmy Kimmel's show,
For the show
is his wife?
Did you see the podcast where he looked like he was a hostage by her over-liberal white anger and bitterness? Oh, of course.
I think it's obviously... Look, Jimmy Kimmel's certainly capable of being funny. I remember doing...
Really?
I remember doing the show. He was the MC while we did the Hugh Hefner roast 8 days after 9/11. And he was funny. He can be funny. I think when you get so emotionally vested in something, and I just think it's... I will tell you this right now. There's no way Disney's picking him up after his contract expires in April.
Schneider even dives into why Kimmel might be so political. His personal environment, he says, matters. His wife's strong progressive views? That influence filters onto the show. Bill Maher recently warned against cutting family over politics. Schneider agrees. Strong ideological bubbles can warp perspective. And when that perspective dominates a nightly show, comedy slowly turns partisan.
Disney doesn't want this. Disney shareholders don't want politics. They just want they want entertainment. They want, and why would you want to allow 50 automatically, take, okay, there's 80 million voters that we don't want to watching our show. It's crazy. I'm sorry.
Let me ask you a direct question. He was funny after 9/11, so 24 years ago. When's the last time Jimmy Kimmel was actually funny?
Well, I will tell you, you can't really come up with like, well, that was a really good zinger. I mean, like, Jay Leno, you can remember. I mean, I remember his jokes, when he was on just the, hey, remember when Starbucks is Starbucks is opening up another 600 Starbucks.
Finally, Schneider reminds us of the business side. Networks aren't political movements, they're businesses. Ratings, ad revenue, and broad appeal matter more than ideology. Push too hard, alienate half the audience, and the parent company starts questioning your value. For Kimmel, that's Disney, if ratings keep slipping. Schneider suggests renewal could be at risk. And that's where today's story ends. Hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because late night TV may never be the same again.